Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Divorcing Strong podcast. Of course, I am your host, Becky Sampson. And today on Divorcing Strong, we're going to choose peace over combat. So my guest, Liz Vaz, is a New York-based collaborative divorce attorney and a Florida Supreme Court certified family mediator who believes family deserves choices, not courtroom chaos. So having grown up in the crossfire of a contentious divorce, Liz witnessed firsthand how litigation can drain bank accounts, damage co-parenting, and leave children carrying emotional weight for years. That early experience fueled her mission today to guide couples through separation with clarity, compassion, and dignity, and to destigmatize the D word, divorce. In her collaborative practice and mediation work, Liz replaces win-lose thinking with structured dialogue, financial transparency, and future-focused agreements. She helps clients protect their kids, their privacy, and their peace, often reaching lasting solutions faster at a lower cost than traditional litigation. Her core message is simple and strong. There is a better way. So whether she's facing delicate co-parenting conversations or translating complex legal options into plain language, Liz stands for outcomes that reduces harm and expand hope. She equips families to end marriage without ending the family, and to view divorce not as a failure, but as an opportunity for growth, grace, and new beginnings. So with that, I want to welcome Liz to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Becky. What a great introduction. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I know, it's kind of fun. I know I know you do a lot of podcasting and I do a lot of podcasting, and it's kind of fun to see what people come up with. And I'm like, really? Did I live that?
Yeah. And it's funny because, some of it, like so much of it is real. So much of it is a part of us.
Yeah.
But when somebody puts it so succinctly and it's like, that is what we do, right? This is what we do to help people who are going through this pretty traumatic time in their life. Yeah.
Oh, well, first of all, and I really appreciate, I know you and I, sometimes I get an opportunity to do like a pre-call, and sometimes I don't. And you and I did the other day. I love your energy, by the way. I love your passion. And it's kind of fun to be able, I know this is kind of a dark, sometimes can be a difficult a space to be in, but I know that you come from a place of heart because of your past experience. So kind of tell everybody a little bit what that is. I know you kind of in the intro, we talked about a difficult divorce that your parents went through and what really drives you in your line of work now.
Yeah. So first, I just want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because the work that we do really does come oftentimes at people's darkest times, right? They feel so inundated by emotions and finances, and honestly, sometimes even the loss of identity, right? Like, this is who I am. I'm a married person and I'm, in this family, and now everything is changing, and they feel so completely paralyzed and lost and really sometimes broken. And as a child of divorce, I fully get it. I understand what it was like. Obviously, I was a child, so I see it through a child's lens, but now as an adult looking at it the way I help clients, I can see those children also going through it. And my goal is to help as many families as I can not have that happen to their children. Because when I was a child, right, I'm in my 50s now, right? I don't have to give my exact age, but I'm not 30 anymore. And when my parents divorced, I was 9. And at that time, collaborative divorce or even divorce mediation was not an option. It was, there wasn't even a no-fault divorce. It was, you want a divorce, you go to court, you prove your grounds, you fight it out, and we see what happens. The casualty is always the children. And when I tell you, I was 9, my sister was 3 years younger than me. Having to go through that as children, watching the chaos unfold and the absolute horrors and honestly sometimes even violence in my house left a huge impression on me. to the point where I always knew there was something that I was going to do to help families never to have to do that to their kids. And neither one of my parents were terrible people, right? They were in a terrible spot. They were in a terrible position. And they felt like they had to fight this out to figure out what's going to happen as far as, who we're going to live with, what our parenting time is going to look like, and what support's going to look like. Support is a big thing, right? How are you going to pay for the kids? And as a child, not understanding any of that, just knowing the two people that you trust most in the world are fighting and spitting venom at each other. And I'm over here wondering what the heck is going to happen to me. So that's why my life's work is ensuring that as much as I can, I'm going to help other families avoid doing that to their children, even if they don't know it and even if they don't mean to.
Well, and that's the thing is that you were so young. Do you really feel that back then experiencing that was really where that seed was planted? That like, there's got to be a better way. I mean, like you always say that there's a better way, but do you feel like you had that way back then?
I think that when, if I think of my 9-year-old self, I certainly didn't think that at 9. Yeah. But if I think that as my college age self, like, okay, when I go to law school, there are things that I can do to help people, right? Yeah. So maybe it gave me more empathy, and it made me certainly more protective of my younger sister and more protective of my family and much more guarded as far as relationships. So it certainly affects you. Did I know then that I was going to do this work? Absolutely not. But as soon as I was in law school, the minute I took a class on family law and found out what divorce mediation was and collaborative divorce, which still at the time was new-ish in New York. Yeah. I was like, this is it, right? That's what it all kind of linked back to. That's what I was meant to do. I was meant to help families not have to go through that. So even though we don't know it in that moment, we feel it and we carry that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say? Do you think, and this is just something that just popped in my head a few seconds ago. What do you think the percentage of divorces are collaborative versus conflict or going to litigation? Litigation, it means that you're going to court. You're right. Kind of fighting over everything. What would you think?
Yeah, it's very hard to know, only because when things are filed contested, meaning that you're going to go in front of a judge, or uncontested can mean so many things. It can mean you and I are getting divorced and we're going to sit down and write an agreement between us and file it with the court without even an attorney. Yeah. Or it can mean that we're going to mediation or we're going to collaborative. However, the uncontesteds that are filed, of all the filings, uncontested is a high percentage. I think it's over 50%, or maybe close to 50%. I don't remember the number, but so I'd like to think a big portion of that is collaborative. Yeah. But collaborative still isn't a household name, so I don't know that everyone knows that that's an option or has that on their radar. But my goal is to change that and make sure that more and more people know about it. I'm a huge believer in mediation and a huge believer in the two of you sitting down and sort of doing that kitchen table. If you can work it out and do that kitchen table settlement, certainly do it. But if you need the support, I always want people to know that collaborative is another option before litigation. Don't go to litigation unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah, I think, sometimes it's inevitable, right? We know that. But when you sit down with the couple, and what's one of the first things that you do to protect the kids, like practically or emotionally, or that you suggest before they even sign any papers if somebody comes to you? Yeah,
so that's a really good question, because I'm an attorney, right? So my goal is to help people through a legal lens, and I am the first one to say to them, I can help you through this legal lens, and I can help you maybe be aware of how this might affect your children, but I'm not a parent specialist. I'm not a mental health professional. So one of the first things that I will tell them is, maybe we should get someone involved. Maybe we should get a parent coordinator. Maybe we should get a parenting expert who can speak to the both of you, even if it's just one time, for the both of you to have the right language and the right tone to have the conversation with the children. Because
I love that you say that, because most people, I think you and I even talked a little bit about this the other day, is that sometimes attorneys may or may not have resources. And this is one of the reasons why I bring a lot of attorneys on this show and a lot of different life coaches and divorce coaches and therapists, because finding the right one that works with you is so important. And having an attorney, knowing when to be an attorney and when to be a mediator, because those are two different roles. And I'm going to have you explain what that is. But being able to find the right fit for you. And I love that as an attorney, you're like, okay, that's not my wheelhouse. And this is who I would suggest, let's get somebody else on board to help you.
Yeah. And it is important that they find the right ones, because I can say, I've worked with this parent coordinator and they're fantastic and they're just not the right fit for this family.
Yeah.
They need somebody else. And that's okay. We can also give other suggestions.
Yeah, I actually thought about that before we had started the show today. I thought, man, I'm having a lot of attorneys, divorce attorneys, and a lot of the same people, but I'm going, to me, it's having an ability to see a lot of different people and different personalities and go, you know what, I want to work with that one. You know, because you can do mediation, if I just correctly, you can do mediation in all 50 states. Is that correct?
So it depends on the state. So New York does not have certifications where you're required to do it. I'm a Supreme Court certified mediator in the state of Florida, because to do it here through the courts, you have to be certified. So I can do it wherever it's permissible. But the truth is, I just do it in Florida and New York.
Okay, awesome. And so back to the kind of the question that I had before. Explain to people what the difference is between mediation and when do you mediate? Like, what are some of the signs in your relationship that you're like, okay, mediation would probably be a better fit than going to hiring an attorney, going litigation, or hopefully we don't have to do that. But that's, yes.
So I always like to say, start out with the assumption and presumption that you will be able to work it out with them. Not that you're in agreement, not that you're on the same page. You never have to be. Otherwise, you wouldn't be, in disagreement about these things. Yeah. The only one thing that you have to agree on is that you're going to stay in the process. That's literally it. You're going to stay in the process and you're going to follow the rules of the process, because there are times, and I will say I have had these times when somebody says, yes, I'm willing to enter into mediation. Both couples come, and as a mediator, I'm the neutral. I'm an attorney licensed in New York, but I'm not going to be your attorney and I'm not going to be your attorney. I'm going to help the both of you facilitate a conversation, make sure that we have all of the documents, that we have full disclosure, and then I'm going to help the both of you come to a resolution. The only thing you have to agree to is come to the table and participate with and follow all the rules. Full disclosure, working in the best interest of the family, not withholding anything. You have to follow all those rules. Otherwise, it's really just a waste of time. Yeah. There have been times, very, very few, when somebody has entered into mediation just to stall it, to say, oh, yes, I will follow the rules, and then they don't. But I will say it's very rare. No, most people don't want to burn time or money, but it does happen. And as a skilled mediator, I can generally see when that's happening. And when it's happening, I will step back and be very honest and say, I don't think that this is going to work. If you want to continue with mediation, I'll give you the name of some other mediators. And most of the time, they can sort of see the writing on the wall and they'll choose somebody else. But as an attorney, I can advocate. As a mediator, I can help them facilitate moving forward.
So here's an interesting thing about that too, is that I know during my divorce, his attorney and me, because I was representing myself at the time, told the judge that we didn't feel that mediation was going to work for our case, but she still required us to do it. What kind of suggestions would you have for somebody that's in that situation? Like, how do you still make mediation? I mean, obviously it didn't work for us. It cost us it cost him quite a bit of money for us to do it. But
that is a really tricky one, because most states now are taking this presumptive mediation approach, meaning that as soon as you enter the court system, they're going to presume, let's at least try mediation. And I love the initiative. I love the idea of it. And it really is a great way to move forward. However, it doesn't always work. When you are going to be required to take this one avenue, like I was saying before, if you're going to be sitting at the table and there's not going to be any give or take, and there's not actually going to be good faith negotiations, that's a waste. The courts don't see it that way. They say, go and give it a try. So depending on where you are, depending on what state you are, either they have a court mediator, somebody who's working for the court, so it doesn't cost you anything, or they send you to private mediation and it will cost something. So what I would suggest is if you're in that situation, and like in your situation, you didn't have to pay for it because you didn't have an attorney, but you certainly could have wasted thousands and thousands of dollars on this. The very first thing that I would say is you vet the mediator, right? If you don't have an option to choose the mediator, if they're chosen for you, you don't have any options. But first, I would vet the mediator. Secondly, I would certainly say we want full disclosure from the beginning, from the very first meeting. And if not, then we're going to have a conversation about, well, this isn't going to work. I can't participate in this. And then you always
exactly what happened.
Yeah. And then
I had
to go back and tell
no disclosure. So I was like, how do I mediate something?
Yeah, you can't negotiate in good faith or from a place of understanding unless you have that information.
Yeah.
So I would always say to go back and let the court know, let the court clerk know, we cannot do this because X, Y, and Z has not been provided to me, or we haven't been able to get those bank statements turned over. Whatever it is that you need to make it clear to either your attorney or the court personnel. Mediation is a waste of time. I cannot continue to go forward without without the other side moving forward in good faith in mediation. It's not going to work.
Yeah. And I wonder if people will actually know that they can contact the judge before they go, because I know it cost us about $3,000. It cost him $3,000 for that mediation. And I knew going in it wasn't going to go well. I wanted to give it a good faith estimate, effort. But that's what I said to the mediator too. I'm like, how do we mediate when they're, and I was a trained mediator at that point. And so I knew I knew the rules, right? I knew how you need two willing people to come together. What have you found works the best for people to prepare for mediation? So
the best prep is always have your financials in advance. Always, even if there are little gaps, that's okay. But as much as you can, your tax returns, you're entitled. People say all the time, oh, he always handled the tax returns. If this is a joint return, you are entitled to a copy of that. Bank statements, retirement statements, credit card statements, mortgage statements, lease agreements on an apartment or a house. An apartment or a house or a car, anything that you have, cryptocurrency, as much documentation as you can compile. Even if you say, the only thing I have is a retirement statement from 4 years ago. Okay, it's a starting point. It has an account number. It has all of that. Compile all of the information, and as much as you can, organize it. And then provide it to your attorney, provide it to the mediator, and you start to take a deep dive into it. Because the more you know, the more when you enter into that first mediation session, you can now go into it with your eyes open and say, oh yeah, I know an estimated amount of what's in that retirement account. And I'm okay waiving that $10,000 account if I can do something over here, or I'm not willing to, and I want it all on the table and we're going to negotiate. Coming from a place of understanding and knowing and having the documentation from day one, very important. Number two is any paperwork that your attorney or your mediator asks you to fill out, please fill it out. I promise you, sometimes it seems redundant. Sometimes it seems annoying, and it's a big task. It's a lot to ask, but it is so helpful. So the more you can take the time, even if you have a mediation next week and you say, I'm not going to have time, push off the mediation session, push it off another week or so you have time to take a deep dive, get all of the paperwork filled out so you can go in there and they have the information instead of wasting time and money and resources.
Well, and I think also another thing, talk about the importance also of knowing what your bottom line is, like knowing where's your boundaries and when financial boundaries that you're willing to settle for and what you're not willing to as you're going into that mediation.
Yeah. And sometimes people don't know, and you won't know until you have the documentation, until you have the paperwork. And if you're not sure, don't agree to anything, right? And even if you sort of using air quotes here, if you agree, okay, I can agree in theory, or I can agree to think about it. That's fine. But then take a step back and think about, will this really work? Have a financial expert in your corner. Even if they're not in the mediation room, you can get a CDFA. You can hire your own certified divorce financial analyst to look at the numbers with you. And then they'll help you say, you know what, if you take less than this, you're really going to be in a very shaky spot financially. But if you agree to whatever that number is, right, that zero sum, if you can agree to that, anything above that is sort of gravy. But you need to get at least here so that we can help you on a financial path that's going to leave you successful and leave you on a road to be able to take care of yourself. If it's below that, well, now you know where the line is. And sometimes you don't know that on day one. But if you have the right people in your corner and you have the right information, then you can sort of set the line. And you can say, you know what, I understand this maybe seems fair, or these are the numbers, but based on the information that I have, I'm not going to be able to make it on less than whatever that baseline is.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that, because knowledge is power. I always say, right? The more information you have, then you can kind of be like, okay, this is what I can settle with. So because now, how would you say was the best thing for them to prepare emotionally, and how to mentally and emotionally prepare for mediation?
Yeah. And that's another really good one, because the truth is finances, most of the time it is emotional. Yeah. Because, we're not talking about if you absolutely cannot make it, right? If you're going to be on government subsidies, I mean, obviously you cannot be left destitute. But what I'm talking about is sometimes people get stuck emotionally on, I need the house. Well, the house is a financial asset, right? That's worth something. Of course, it's your home, it's your heart, it's those kind of things. But sometimes the money, pensions, a big one. Pensions mean something to somebody. It's not about the dollars, it's about the emotions.
Yep.
So whether it's the house or it's the pension or whatever it is, the money, it's emotions. So to prepare emotionally, a divorce coach is huge, because again, as an attorney or even as a mediator, I can help you gather the information and start to prepare a plan and start to come up with different options and think about, will this work? Will that work? Let's plug this in. Let's plug that in. But I can't help you emotionally. And I can't even necessarily help you. And I'm not even talking about taking that deep dive into the deep-seated reasons why your relationship is breaking down. I'm talking about just the emotions of moving forward in the divorce. And having a divorce coach, people think, well, I shouldn't really, I can't afford that. I don't really need an extra person in the room. If you have someone who can help you prepare emotionally, absolutely it is worth it, because then you can come in a little bit more clear-headed and say, okay, well, when I need to deal with those emotions, I can take those to my coach or to my therapist. But here, this is where I'm going to stay focused.
Yeah. And one of the things I think people need to understand about a mediator is that you literally cannot take sides. So sometimes I think do you ever have people try to get you to take their side and like, So it's, you got to understand, mediation is there. You really are, I hate saying the puppet, but you're the one that's pulling the strings back and forth, and you got to be willing to go, okay, the way that a mediator says something can really shift your mindset, and being open to that shift, saying, hey, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Could you settle for this? Could you, and so it really is, at least for me, I found when I went into my mediation, is to be open to all things and not be too tied to too much, and be open to suggestion and saying, hey, I'll consider a lot of things. I'll at least consider it. And see what lands and what doesn't land, because it's really hard as a mediator to have somebody come in so stiff that they're not moving. Yeah, and it's like, I can't work with that.
Yeah, and to your point before, about your bottom line, sometimes you do know that in the back of your head, but if you come in with that open mind, sometimes you can say, okay, maybe my bottom line will shift or change a little bit. But even if it doesn't, just having that perspective or even that outward statement of, okay, I'll consider that. Even that might move the other side just a little bit, just to soften them a little bit, like they're hearing me. Because a lot of times people are not hearing each other, no matter what it is. If it's, I want the house, that's all they hear. And they don't hear everything in between, like what's happening with the kids, or I'm willing to give a little bit more in retirement, or whatever it is, they can't hear it. So if in that mediation space, they hear that the other spouse is giving just a little bit, like, I'll consider it. Sometimes that can soften the emotions, and then they can hear each other in order to move closer to a negotiated settlement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, can you speak a little bit about what's the logistics of mediation? Because some people may think, well, I don't want to be in the same room. We're going to end up arguing, blah, 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 blah. What are the options that they have working with a mediator in that regards?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I would have given you a different answer had we done this a year ago. But now that I've been Florida Supreme Court certified mediator, they do it differently in different states. So most of the work that I do is virtual. So you can do it in person or you can do it virtually. But generally we're in the same room, whether it's a Zoom room or the physical room, and the mediator will speak to both of you and let you both know that they are neutral, that there are times when maybe you need breaks, those kind of things. And we are going to work together again. Through the lens of complete and utter disclosure. We're going to share everything, and then we're going to start problem solving. But I do also let people know there are times when, even though it can seem therapeutic, just like I was saying before, you can hear each other and it feels a little therapeutic. It's not therapy, but also it can get a little heated. So if there are times when you need to take a break, you can take a break, but we can also caucus, and we can have those mediation sessions separately, where in a Zoom room, I can say, okay, I'll put you in 2 separate rooms. I'll go and speak to spouse A. Let me hear you. Spouse B, same thing. In Florida, it's a little different, because through the Supreme Court, you mediate with the attorneys in the room. And when I say with the attorneys in the room, you're almost exclusively, from my experience, mediating the attorneys. And the clients are, they've already spoken to their attorney. So the presumption is that they're giving their voice and their opinions and what it is that their interests are through the attorneys. But you as a mediator, you're sitting there speaking to the attorneys. And then after they're done, then you turn to the client and say, Wife, is that what you agreed to? Husband, is that what you agreed to? So it's just a different dynamic, but it still is listening to both voices and seeing where it is that we can kind of, you're here. How can we help you somehow get in the middle?
So do they have to have their, I mean, obviously if they're self-represented, then it would just be themselves, right?
Exactly. Yes. Private mediation. And if they're self-represented, then they can come on their own. If they have counsel, they are required to have their counsel there.
Wow. So it can get expensive.
Very expensive. And
yes.
My very first mediation session in Florida started at 9:30 in the morning. It didn't end until 6 p.m. No lunch break, straight through. So it can, think about that. Your attorneys and the mediator in the same room.
So here's another reason why to go to mediation because so that could be just one state, right? There's a different state. Right. I know when we did our mediation, we didn't need to bring our attorney, or he didn't bring his attorney, and it was just me and him. And so I was thinking if I did have an attorney and had to pay my attorney for all of that time too, because once the attorney speaks on your behalf, really. And that was one of the things when I did get an attorney, I felt like I kind of lost my voice, even though I really loved my attorney. But he would say something in court and be like, well, my client, and I was like, yep. I never said that. But I was like, but I mean, I trusted him. You know, he was somebody I really, really trusted. So that's something, another reason. I'm not saying it's bad to have an attorney. I'm just saying it's another reason to see if you can get a negotiation and a mediator before to go over really the difficult things. It's a lot less expensive before you have to battle it out in court or with attorneys.
Absolutely. And that's really why I'm such a huge proponent of the collaborative model, because it marries those two, right? Sort of play on words here, marries them. But between mediation and litigation, there is the collaborative space where you do have counsel who is there. However, our goal is always to encourage you to advocate for yourself. So while I'm going to hear everything that you're saying, and I'm going to make sure that I'm digesting it and I'm taking it down and seeing everything through that lens, when we're having meetings, I'm encouraging you to say it so that it is your words. Because when I say it, I'm going to do it from more of an adversarial tone, even though we're in collaborative and we take it very seriously and we don't encourage litigation at all. However, I don't want to be the shield. I want you to have your voice. I want you to start to find your voice and to advocate for yourself and what your interests are for your future in that space. So that's the beauty of blending the mediation. It's a step up where you have a little bit more support, but you're not litigating. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that it gives you an opportunity to, when you're mediating, you can decide if you want to be in separate rooms or if you be together. And so that's one thing I love about the whole mediation process.
Yes.
Is it really can be a very beautiful process. You can be kind of combative at first, and then you kind of massage it until you get to a point where like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
And to that point, there are many people, and I don't want to take us off topic, but there are a lot of people who believe, and if you're not comfortable with it as a professional, I encourage you not to do it. But there are a lot of people in the profession who think that if there is high conflict or domestic violence, you cannot mediate. I am not one of those people. I believe very strongly in mediation and the collaborative model, even when there's domestic violence. And sometimes I will say, especially because there's domestic violence. I have litigated for many years, very, very high conflict, like orders of protection, police reports, like really, really abusive situations. And I am here to tell you the courts do not protect people. They do not hear them, and they do not protect them the way that they should. Mediation, just like you said, we can put you in the separate rooms. I do not feel safe. I do not feel heard. I feel very, very uneasy being in the same room with this person. Okay, then we can set it up and we can design it where you feel comfortable. And honestly, even the perpetrator, we don't want you to feel victimized. We want you to feel heard here so that we can value all voices. We can hear everyone. We want you to be in a space where you can be open and transparent. So being in the mediation space or the collaborative space, I believe very, very strongly in setting it up and designing it in a way that works for you, even if it's high conflict. Yeah.
Well, I've never actually heard somebody say that. So that's hopeful, right? Mm-hmm. Because, so actually speaking on that kind of term is that when you're in a situation where you're doing the mediation, at what point do you know that it's like, it's just not gonna, you're not going to be able to resolve anything and you've got to call it?
Yeah, it's a really, that's a delicate balance. Yeah. It's a tightrope that we walk. And there are times when I have called it. Not that long ago, I called it and I said, you know what? It just seems like what we're doing here now is going around in circles. And
Yeah.
sometimes people do need that. They need a little bit of time, and it takes a little longer, and then they come back around and then they're on track. If we have to do that once, maybe. If we have to do that twice, now I don't want to waste anyone's time or money. And then I will call it and say, you know, I don't think this is the right process. Specifically if there is just not going to be disclosure. Because if there's not going to be disclosure, and honestly, only one person is the one to give that, I have no power to subpoena that information. I have no power to compel them. I'm not a decision maker, right? I'm not the judge. So at that point, then I say to both of them, do you want to do this again? I'm telling you that I think that now you've spent a lot of time and money and we're in the same place. So my suggestion would be maybe we start to think about something else. And then you let them say, do I want to go to litigation? I'm the first one to tell them this is about what it would cost if you go to litigation to retain an attorney. And then it goes up from there. So the choice is yours. I'm not trying to fear monger you or give you any scare tactics. I'm being very real. Do you want to provide the information here and we can work on it? Or I will give you the name of some fantastic litigators and the both of you can go and find someone who's going to work for you. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it does. I will say that even if they take that loop around the block one too many times, we can come back on the track. But if it seems like we've gone around the block once or twice and we're not making any progress, I will be very direct and very real with my clients.
Well, one of the things I love about you is that you're a very straight shooter. You know, at least that's what my impression of you is that, but this is also the thing that comes to my mind is that this is why it's so important to have the right people in that place, because your past experience, I mean, your why and your whole reason why you're in this field to begin with is because of the trauma that you experienced as a child. So being able to come there and then having all of your experience, you know, litigating and things, and like, look, here's your options. You can go this way if you want to. However, that's going to end up costing you that. Here's your other option. And so I'm telling you, mediators, people that are really good mediators that are neutral and that follow those mediation rules are worth their weight in gold, because they're helping you navigate that last little part. And gosh, and I always tell people too, I'm like, just let's get you through the finish line, right? Yeah. So with me getting through the finish line, you get to like fly after this, and this is not a permanent thing. So I appreciate it. So,
and I appreciate you saying that, because we're not always going to be the right fit for every family. So you have to find the mediator who is the right fit. And when people have a consultation with me, oftentimes I say to them, how many other mediators have you consulted with? Maybe at least just meet with one other to make sure that I'm the right fit, because we're going to be sharing some intimate information, right? You're going to be giving me details of your life that maybe you would never even, you know, want any family member to know. So I want to make sure that we're right for each other.
Yeah. Well, so kind of as we wrap up, I'm like, after all of your experience and everything, what's one bit of advice that you kind of wish people got more that they don't really get, that you see that there's the constant issue that people are having a hard time with when they're going through divorce?
Yeah, that's a really good one, because there's so many that I can choose. But the one that I always come back to is that over 95% of cases that enter the court system that are contested, 95% will settle.
Yeah.
They will not go to trial. If you know that 95%, if there's a 95% chance you're going to get in your car and get into a car accident, you are going to do every single thing before you get in that car to make sure that you are safe and protected, and that maybe you take alternative routes. You are not going to do that. If that's the case here, why not start from a place of understanding, full disclosure, and divorce mediation? Don't start off in court. Start from a place of gathering all of the information, as hard as it is, and it is hard. I don't take that away from people. Have the conversation with each other. You're going to be exes, and you can either be enemies or you can work toward moving this forward. It doesn't mean you have to be best friends. No one has to go skipping over the rainbow, kumbaya, but we can be real about the fact that if 95% are going to settle, it's probably going to be you too. So start out with divorce mediation or collaborative, and don't waste time, money, or energy litigating.
Yes, thank you. And one of the things that really stuck out in the bio that came out is to end a marriage without ending the family. And when you have the right people and the right team on board, they can help facilitate that so that it does the least amount of damage. moving forward and everything. So I really, really appreciate what you do. I always like to tell people, like, thank you for being in this space. Thank you for showing up every day, and helping the people that come to you. I know you do consultations.
Yep.
Actually, I'm going to put your website on here. There we go.
Yes, I appreciate it. We love talking to people about options, process options, about ways that they can move forward and save that time, money, and energy, and create a different divorce story for their children. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah. And I want to plug real quickly your Divorce Den. So you have a podcast as well. Where do people find it?
Yeah. So on YouTube at Divorce Den, we talk about all things related to divorce and relationships, specifically about how to heal from broken relationships, those toxic relationships, narcissistic abuse, financial abuse, but how to find yourself again during and after the divorce, and sometimes even during the marriage, just not losing your own identity. So thank you.
I love it. That's why I say divorce strong. Like you can come out of this stronger. I guarantee you. Yep. Not that either one of you and I are on for divorce. I always love that we're in the divorce space, but we're not really for divorce. We really, we want people to work things out. But when it's inevitable, get the right people around to help you.
Absolutely
do that. So thank you so much, Liz. Hold on just 1 second. We'll bring you right back. But all right. I want to thank everybody for joining us for another episode of the Divorcing Strong. You know what? I just love Liz. She's cute. I love the straightforwardness, because sometimes this is a very foggy, navigating a divorce, especially financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically. It can be very, very foggy. So I appreciate straightforward. Let's just get to the brass tacks and be able to move forward. So thank you again for joining us. And please tune in, share these episodes with people, and contact the people that I have on the podcast, because I'm bringing really high quality, beautiful people into this that can help you through this process. So thanks, you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode. Talk to you later. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.